Aloha, in this tutorial we're going to take a look at the sign-in template. So to do that we'll go to our Bootstrap bookmarks bar and click on sign in to get us to the page. And as before we're going to download the zip file. And you can see that we've got this bootstrap-example-intro signin.zip indicating that it's the sign-in branch of this particular project. We'll move it to our home page. And then we'll double click. Okay, and then we're going to name this, as before, we're going to rename this to a project. Maybe we're creating a site for bar, so we'll call this bar site. And it includes the Eclipse project definition, so we're going to use our import existing projects into workspace, select root directory, go back to here to Johnson, and where are we? Here we are, bar site, open, and we'll say finish. And then it's not named bar site yet, so we'll click the project and we'll go refactor, rename, bar site. Okay, so now we've got, and then we can now click in and see the HTML. The final thing we want to do is, in order to get live reloading going, we're going to say add Johnson bar site to this, and then we're going to want to load Johnson bar site index.html, and then we're going to click in our browser to establish this, and then we're going to check to make sure that we're getting live reloading, and you can see that we are. Okay, again, this is the canonical steps. Do it every time. That way you can play around with this as fast and as effectively as possible. Okay, so we may want to change the title, of course, to be something more appropriate. Bar site, and you can see it gets loaded up there. As before, we've got our viewport. We're loading in the Bootstrap files. Let me just get this like that so we can get it out of the way. And we have our site-specific customizations, which in this case is all we're doing is we're making the H3 tag be centered. We do the HTML5 shims for IE support. And then the container of this is the body of this is simply, we have a container, we have a row, and then we're using our column stuff. And hopefully you've watched the tutorial for Bootstrap columns for beginners or Bootstrap grid layout for beginners. In that, I always said that you should have your columns add up to 12. And in general, that's true. Of course, there's exceptions to every rule. Here's a situation where I wanted to provide I wanted to get the responsive nature of this, so you can see that as we go to the mobile size, things expand to go full screen, which will be kind of more convenient, the stacked layout. So I got that by using the container row column hierarchy of Bootstrap classes. But if I didn't have this in here, so if I get rid of that and save it out, what you find is this thing's not centered. That kind of looks junky, right? So how can we make it a little better? Well, we can use, and again, this is the nice thing about using these templates, is just delete stuff and refresh and see what the heck happens. It's the best way to kind of learn, why these things are here. Let me put it back in. What this is basically saying is that we want the interior of this div to occupy 4 columns in a small layout, but we want it to start offset by 4. Okay? So if you think of a 12-column layout of 3 4-column areas, well, the middle 4 is going to be the centered amount, which is kind of effectively what I've done by putting these classes, by using this specified to be small 4 and using the offset. Inside, we're going to create a form. We're going to ask the people to sign in, and then we've got some form controls. Don't worry too much about the form stuff. We'll get to forms in more detail when we do the get into the Play framework where we've actually got to process forms. But you can see there's some cool stuff like autofocus, so that when we go to the page, we're automatically put the focus in the email so people can type right away. We're using a type password, so if I actually type something in here, it doesn't show up as the characters. And we've got this button class with various kinds of things, and you can fiddle around with this. So try making this SM and save it out, and you can see that the button gets a little smaller. Move that. We could say button, I think warning is maybe one of them. I forget. Let's see. Yeah, so that would be warning. And any of these things. See what happens. Get rid of button block and just see what happens. Okay. And then at the bottom we've got these, the loading of our Bootstrap, JavaScript-based components. Okay, so I think that's all you really need to know about the sign-in branch.